So joining me today is the wonderful Nat Kringoudis. Hi Nat, how are you?
Hello. I'm well, thank you.
It's great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
We're looking at so many things and we're already into week 2 now to being a real food rock star. And one of the things that constantly comes up is predominantly female concerns, and obviously you being the hormone revolutionist that you are, I thought you were the best person to bring in and just debunk a few things, demystify, explain, and really give us some tools, if you like, as women to feel like we're in charge and this is not something that is completely out of control, that we have to just hope for the best on what our future looks like.
Well, I love that because I think it's so important. That's definitely what I'm all about, is helping women to removing the fear. You know, when we're informed, it's not scary anymore. Whereas, you know, how many times have we heard something about our health and kind of just gone, I don't actually know what that is and it sounds really bad, so I'm just going to go with being, you know, led to do whatever I'm at the mercy of my GP, for example, when in actual fact it's probably not that bad at all. It's just a matter of understanding what's going on.
Yeah, brilliant. So how did you get to be so excited about hormones and helping women in this area?
It so wasn't a conscious choice, let me tell you. I opened up my clinic here in Melbourne well over 10 years ago, and I was hell-bent that I wasn't going to be treating women's health. Let's face it, hormones and hormonal women are not exactly what, you know, you'd sign up for every day to be listening to without being rude.
It's the bridezilla of the health world, right?
It so is. But look, that's what we were seeing an influx of, and it certainly wasn't my specialty area at the time. So I just made the decision that I wanted to be as good as I could about, or, you know, in terms of helping women understand their hormones better and educating women as well around that. So, you know, it was something that's kind of evolved over 10 years, I guess, and here we are today. I feel like we're really being able to make a conscious difference amongst women.
Yeah, beautiful. And so Chinese medicine is obviously somewhere that you are highly specialised. Can you talk to us a little bit about why you chose that modality?
Well, maybe it's the theme of my life that I don't really know why things happen, but they do.
Yeah.
I started out studying health sciences, biosciences. I was scienced up to my eyeballs, and I wasn't really getting the answers that I kind of needed, or that they weren't. When I say I wasn't getting the answers, there were too many holes that I was kind of going, oh, you know what, this doesn't actually work. So I had to kind of go back and find something that was going to work, that was going to answer those questions, and Chinese medicine was really able to do that for me. And then I studied herbal medicine, and then I went on to study acupuncture, and then, you know, that was 18 years ago I started all of that. Wow. Which makes me feel really old.
You certainly don't look it. It must be all the gems that you know.
I don't know. So the other day I was talking to someone and I said, oh, you know, 12 years ago or whatever it was, and then I kind of looked up and went, oh, I just do the maths on that. Actually, no, that'd be 18 years ago. Yeah. So I'm certainly not one of those people that's fixated on time, that's for sure. But look, it was just something that really, it did evolve, and Chinese medicine was able to give me what I needed anyway, to be able to facilitate that type of healthcare with other people.
Yeah, brilliant.
So, you know, I guess nowadays there is very much an integration between, you know, my science mind and my TCM mind. It wasn't always like that, though. It took me a really long time to kind of let go of the Western, bring in the Eastern, and then mesh the two together. Yeah, they certainly don't always go hand in hand, but I think when we can have that understanding, there's a whole new level of healthcare that we can offer people.
Oh, I so agree. The integrative approach is amazing, and a lot of people hate doctors. And I'm like, no, we need our doctors. They save the day.
Yes.
But our holistic practitioners prevent and
That's
build
right.
strength, and so
That's
the
right.
two are definitely worth having in our corner.
Absolutely.
So what should we tackle first? I'm thinking let's just go straight for the big daddy, excess
Go for it.
estrogen.
Oh, yeah, my favourite.
So this is something that
Look,
time and again it comes back. So many women are concerned. So many women are terrified that if they have excess estrogen showing in a blood test, that's it, breast cancer's around the corner. Can you help us sort of have a look at excess estrogen, why it might occur, what we can do to bring ourselves back into balance?
Yeah. I mean, we're all supposed to have estrogen, obviously. It's one of them, as women, it's one of the main hormones that our menstrual cycles rely on. The problem nowadays is that there are so many external influences that are leading to what is now being recognised as too much estrogen in the body. So, there are things like, xenoestrogen, so our chemicals in our environment, our body products, our washing powder, our shampoo, all of these things contain chemicals that our bodies directly absorb, and our bodies recognize it to be a type of estrogen. So it's not necessarily the same type of estrogen that we have in our body, but they mimic estrogen. These chemicals mimic estrogen in our body. So automatically they are things that will cause an increase in our estrogen levels within our body. We also look at phytoestrogens, so things like soy products. They mimic estrogen within our body. So again, we get this immediate reaction where our body will see it as estrogen, so our estrogen levels rise. It doesn't mean that we can't have soy. It means that we need to get mindful about GMO soy, where it is in our food. It's in so much of what we would consider to be normal food intake. And this is where I always come back to saying, where possible, let's make our own food so we know exactly what's in it. Soy's in breads, it's in sauces, it's used as a thickening agent, it's in so many things that we wouldn't otherwise know. So, we might be consciously going, okay, well, I'm not great with dairy, so I'm going to use soy as an alternative. But we might be having way more than that, not really thinking, okay, well, just one soy latte a day is not going to kill me, right? Well, no, but are you having bread? Are you having sauces? Are you having all these other things that's got soy in it? And that's when it does start to become an issue because it mimics estrogen. So they're two of the things that we can make conscious choices around finding a really good alternative. And then it's not a factor anymore. We can let go of those things. But then we've got to come and look at the other things that are raising our estrogen levels. So we know that stress will directly cause, or not directly, indirectly in a roundabout way cause our estrogen levels to rise. And that's because cortisol, the stress hormone, and progesterone, that's our hormone that we need to ovulate, they compete for the same receptor sites in our body. Cortisol is extremely bossy. It likes to control everything within us. And unfortunately it means the progesterone just doesn't get to do its job. So, our body loves balance. If you can think of a jar, and that jar always has to be full of hormones. It's the ratio of estrogen and progesterone that's going to change because our bodies like that balance, so to speak. But when there's too much estrogen, there's going to be less progesterone. That's just an automatic thing. So this starts to become a problem because progesterone can't kick in and do its thing. Estrogen will continue to rise, and all of a sudden there's another reason why we see estrogen dominance. And so this will lead to things like polycystic ovarian syndrome. It will lead to I'm not going to say infertility, but maybe momentary or temporary infertility. And that's just our body's way of coping. It's basically saying, you know what, listen here, lady, I can't do everything.
Yeah.
You need to listen to me. There's a reason why these things are happening within my body. And so if we can be mindful about stress and the causes, or what stress causes, and again, that's another whole learnt thing in itself, but there are certain things in our life that we can choose to stress about. And then when we do that, we can then make a conscious choice of what we're going to do around that. There's so many things that we are in the habit of stressing about that don't actually matter.
Absolutely.
If I'm going to be 10 minutes late to pick the kids up, okay, it's not going to be a great experience, but there's nothing I can do about it. It's not going to change the world right at this minute. Whereas, and it even comes down to, I'm not making light of, of serious situations. We might have loved ones that are unwell, or there might be a range of things that are causing stress. It's still the choice that we make around that determines the outcome of how that stress affects us. So, I talk a lot about, I've got a little boy, he's got a genetic condition, and he has been able to teach me that we've got a choice around his wellness. We choose wellness or we choose sickness. Now, when we choose sickness, we're always going to find evidence of sickness, whereas we choose wellness, we're going to always find evidence of wellness. Doesn't mean to say that we don't get sick. He's human, after all. It just means that when all said and done, we're focusing on wellness, and that creates a whole new level of ease as opposed to a level of stress. Yeah, so I found that particularly useful as well, and I think we can all do with an overhaul when it comes to our stress and our lives.
Brilliant, Nat. I might encourage everyone listening to the video today to just take a minute after our chat and write down everything about you that is functioning beautifully. How good is that, right?
Absolutely.
So we get
And
people to really focus.
I say to people all the time, and I've created an e-course called Debunking Stress for this reason. It was because, at the end of the previous e-course, which was debunking PCOS, women got to the end of it and they said to me, look, you're telling us that we need to stress less, but I don't really know what that means and I don't know how to do that. So debunking stress then became the next e-course and the next event that we used to help to educate people. But one of the things that I talk about in debunking stress is that getting a piece of paper and writing down what's in your mind, as in what stresses, because often it feels like it's so overwhelming. There's so much going around in our head. You write it down, it's like 5 or 6 things. It's not actually that much going on, but it feels, when it's on repeat, it feels like it's this constant swirl that's really hard to break out of. So that's a great thing to do. Write down all the things that you do love about yourself. And then also write down all the things that need to get done, and it's not that bad. And half of them you can probably do in the next half an hour. It's just that because they've been going around in your head on repeat that it's been difficult to get that clarity.
Exactly right. And there's some fantastic research around, Creel Price has a business book actually called The One Thing to Succeed in Business. And I think it's so relevant to our industry in that he talks about decisionship. And the things that you don't just take decisions on wear you down like a muscle. So you're talking about all that stuff going around and around in your head. And he uses this great example, I'll never forget it, where you're at the restaurant, you've opened up the menu, you've seen duck is your favourite thing in the world, you haven't decided on it yet because you're now tossing up between all the other things. And it's just that simple thing. As soon as you see something you love, just pick it, put it down, move on to something else. And it's about that not overcrowding your head with stressful decisions that simply are not stressful.
So true. I got into work this morning and the girls were asking me all these questions. And I'm like, okay, listen, you're just going to have to stop for 1 second. I just need to write down what I've got to do today and then we can talk. Yeah. But at the minute, I can't even I'm not even focusing on you and what you're saying to me. I can't answer your question. Let me come in, let me write it all down because then I know what I can do and then I'm looking over there because my list's actually right next to me here.
Don't worry, I've got mine right
and then we can tackle it, and then my mind's clear and I can actually focus on what I need to do. So, so important.
Exactly. And then that brings into light that whole, are we living our life reactively or proactively, all that good stuff. So proactivity, decisionship, and celebrating what's working. I love that. That's the summary on that little part of our chat. Good. Very good stuff. So can you just share, obviously you're highly specialised in PCOS, but are there any other symptoms a woman might be displaying that like are alarm bell estrogen dominance without even having to get a blood test?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not a massive fan of tests, to be honest. They don't very often tell us what we suspect. And, I'm always going to be led by someone's signs and symptoms over a test result. The amount of women I have that come in that use thyroid, for an example, they've come in because they feel so crappy. And all of their symptoms point towards low thyroid function, yet their tests are fine. Now, I'm not going to go with the test. I'm going to go with the signs and symptoms. So, the same for estrogen dominance. I think one of the main things is actually feeling out of control or crazy, like you've got PMS all month round. That's a classic one that a lot of women go, oh, really? And then there's some women that say, I just feel like I'm not even myself anymore. I don't even know who I am. This is what I'm talking about. It's not actually you, it's your hormones.
Yeah. And that's got to be a relief for people, doesn't it? When you can actually productize the problem. It's over here, so nothing to do with you. Let's fix that and bring your body back into balance.
And it's not that hard to treat either. Also things like weight gain, it's, that weight that you just can't shift. Again, estrogen dominance, too much estrogen fueling that weight. So, again, nice to know that sometimes it's not actually us or what we're doing, it's our hormones again. Even things like, when I go talk about that crazy feeling, it's the same as, having these uncontrollable sugar cravings that you just can't do anything about. And there's a difference between eating out of comfort and wanting to eat sugar and actually just having this uncontrollable craving. They're two different things. So they definitely are key symptoms. My favourite symptom, however, is ovulation pain.
Ah.
So it's not supposed to be there. It's my one thing that I'll ask. I'll say, do you feel ovulation? Yes, I do. Okay, well, does it feel like period pain? Yes, it does. Okay, well, we can fairly much straight away assume that there's too much estrogen in the body. There's a reason that's being felt. So that's my favourite one, because so many women have that. And I shared something on my Facebook page the other day, and someone said, thank you, I've been asking my doctors for 10 years why I have ovulation pain. I never knew that this was why. And it's a really treatable thing. So again, understanding why we have something, all of a sudden it's not scary anymore. It just is.
Yeah,
we know why it's there, and we know what to do about treating it. I guess they're the main things. And then obviously, your irregular periods or late ovulation. Those are the other sorts of things that come with estrogen dominance that are key indicative factors as well.
Mm-hmm. So obviously there's seeing a naturopath, there's seeing a nutritionist, there's working with practitioners, but a lot of people might either find that a bit scary to take that jump, or might simply just not have the money at this particular time in their lives, because it can be quite an expensive journey, and that's not for everyone. What's something people can do for free today?
Everything?
Today? I know, right? But let's just... What are your top
Sure.
3 dietary
Look,
interventions?
I get asked the question all the time, does diet really matter? And I'm like, diet and lifestyle is everything. That is your walking, breathing, that is your everything. If you can't lay that foundation, we can't expect great things of our body either. So it's so important that we come back to understanding that, your diet does lay the foundation for your wellness. We need to come back to whole foods. We need to come back to understanding that our hormones are made of fats and protein, which is why low fat is such a disaster, because it's not actually feeding our body with what we nutritionally need. So what does our body do? It just keeps on asking for more food and more food and more food until it gets what it needs nutritionally. Now, we can either eat, a reasonable sized meal and get everything we need, or we can eat all day and not get everything that we need, and so we're going to keep on eating. This stuff isn't rocket science, obviously, but having said that, no one's necessarily teaching us this, so it's not our fault that we don't know it either. We need to get clued up on that. So for me, yeah, absolutely, whole foods, diet and lifestyle. Whole foods, fat and protein, and then of course things like your probiotics and, restoring that gut function, because for many women that is actually the core problem. It's the, the estrogen dominance or the thyroid problem or even the lack of period or lack of hormones comes back to the fact that their gut's not assimilating nutrients properly. So if we can get that right, then everything else tends to follow suit. And again, realising that there isn't necessarily a one-size-fits-all. It's a bit of trial and error thrown in as well as to what works for your own body. But I think if you can get your gut health working properly, it helps us to make informed decisions. It helps because, again, it's our emotion centre as well. So it helps us to get clear on many levels and make decisions based on what our body actually needs. Yeah. I think that's really important as well. And then, lifestyle. Obviously doing the right things, getting enough sleep, choosing stress and making that something that throws you in a positive direction, not in a negative direction. And again, mindset is the other big thing, Mindset and attitude is, it's like it's like what the gut is physically, that is, also for our mental, our mental well-being as well. Yeah, absolutely. It's key. So, I guess if I had to summarize it, that would be it in a nutshell. Obviously there's layers to that.
Of course.
For sure. Yeah.
So, obviously we're quite a pill-popping culture. People will be very quick to grab a probiotic, but cultured veggies might completely freak them out. Could the same thing be said of, let's say, hormones? A lot of people are guided, I'm not saying it's good or bad, maybe you can tell us a bit more, but guided to balance out their hormones by taking natural hormone therapies such as progesterone cream. Or can you talk to us a little bit about perhaps your thoughts on that, if it can be avoided for certain people, or if it's actually just a really healthy thing to incorporate for certain people?
Yeah, I think we still need to come back to why. Why do we need to do that in the first place? Because by using a supplement or something like progesterone cream or whatever it might be, it's not actually fixing the root cause. So, even though perhaps we may never be able to completely fix the root cause, I'm such a believer in we can thrive no matter what. Now, it's going to be varied for different people, but we still need to be living the best version of ourselves no matter what at any given time. So, why is it the progesterone's low in the first place? Well, perhaps it's because there's too much estrogen in the body, or perhaps it's because the hormones are low in general. Why might that be? Well, perhaps someone's been on the pill for 20 years. We know that the pill upsets our gut health just like antibiotics do. So we need to come back in and restore the gut health with fermented foods like you're talking about, probiotics, less sugar, less gluten, working out all the things that our body needs to thrive. But I'm not opposed to using supplements. I'm not opposed to even sometimes using assisted conception or medications to do that, so long as you've come in and done the work at the back end, and you can still expect great things from your body. But, the classic example is a woman being on the pill for 20 years to treat her PCOS. Now, it's not a treatment, it's just a Band-Aid, unfortunately.
Yeah, hello, hand up.
and so, she comes off the pill because she wants to have children. She's been told, oh, that's okay, don't worry about it, because when it's time to have children, we'll just give you Clomid and that will, then you'll ovulate and you'll have children. It doesn't work like that. Why is the PCOS there in the first place? Let's come back in and have a look at that, support the woman, work out a treatment plan. Perhaps, if we're not there where we need to be within 6 months, then Clomid is the next option. But your body's so much more nourished because we've had 6 months of diligent support that the Clomid has a far better chance of working than 6 months before when the body was so depleted. So, there's different scenarios for every person. There's no right or wrong. We just still need to come back to understanding there's always a reason.
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Now, what are some of the biggest, like if you think of all the people you've treated, this is a big one, could you even just pick a couple of scenarios, a couple of case studies, if you like, to share with us that really stand out for you with this massive transformation from the easiest little pinpoint of something and then just their life completely changing?
Yeah, totally. I have a standout patient in the clinic who, most beautiful woman, was sort of one of those people that was often emailing or messaging me questions about her fertility and her health. She wasn't actually a patient yet. She eventually, I think, she won a consultation with us. And so she'd been trying to conceive for 2 years. She won a consultation with us. We went through helping her to understand her body better. And I think within 2 months she'd fallen pregnant. So they'd been trying for 2 years. She just didn't have an understanding about her body, about when she was fertile, when she wasn't. And then knowing that information was able then to go, they were about to do IVF.
Wow.
So this happens a lot. We help women to understand when they're fertile, when they're not, and what needs to be supported within that, in terms of diet and lifestyle. Because there's very often our bodies are really clever. We think we know when we're ovulating. It's not because this woman wasn't a smart woman. We think we know when we're ovulating, but our bodies are super clever, and very often what our bodies will do is they'll gear up to ovulate for whatever reason. They'll go, hang on a minute, too much stress today or too much whatever, and come back and try several days later. Now, that's what was happening with this woman month after month. So she was missing it, thinking she was nailing it with, watching her ovulation, seeing all her signs, fully understanding it. In actual fact, her body was coming back 3 or 4 days later and actually ovulating later. Yeah, so she was missing the boat for 2 years. Wow. These sorts of things are it's lovely, but I'm sure it's painstaking for the patient. It's just stuff that we're not taught about ourselves that I believe we have the right to know.
Absolutely.
And there are many reasons why we're not taught. I know in high school, I was led to believe that we all collectively ovulated on the same day, and that you so much as sniffed a guy no matter when you were in your menstrual cycle and you were going to fall pregnant. So, these sorts of things are stuff that need to just be, we just need to be informed more.
Yeah.
Is the bottom line. I've also had patients that, I think stress is a big, big factor, as we've discussed, and it will absolutely affect your fertility, as we've spoken about. So, the classic, I don't even actually have to do anything. They just make an appointment and all of a sudden they're pregnant. And it's not because I'm some superhuman. It's because they've given the problem to someone else. So they've let it go. It's not our problem anymore. It's out of our hands. We've made an appointment and all of a sudden they fall pregnant. That's another classic. And then, then there's also patients that, we give them basic diet and lifestyle advice. We identify what's going on. We help them see that things like PCOS or endometriosis are, they're not necessarily a lifestyle condition per se, but that lifestyle will absolutely influence the varying degree of these conditions. And more we're having women that have followed our diet and lifestyle advice, not necessarily patients, but they've watched our e-courses, and all of a sudden, that they've cleared their symptoms of that. So I don't know. There's many cases. It's such a wonderfully rewarding job to help women overcome their hormone problems.
Absolutely. So Nat, where can we find you? Are you running a course soon? Is there anything happening in your?
What are we doing? I've just released a book called Well and Good. So that landed in bookstores last Monday.
Which is beautiful. Congratulations.
Exciting. Thank you. So that's been our latest project, and everything was geared up to that. And this is one of the questions one of my staff members asked me today. So what are we doing now? And I'm like, yeah. So at the moment, we're just in a little bit of a in-between phase. I have plans for a new book next year, so that's exciting. And I'm also, I'm not launching, but I'm part of a very exciting program called the Weight Loss and Health Institute. Oh, wow. So this launches in the new year, and I'm very excited. It is one of those things that has, an amazing board of advisors, ranging from psychologists to cardiac surgeons, to helping people, leading them to their new level of wellness. It's all about movement. It's not about vigorous exercise. It's about understanding your body's nutritional requirements. It's moving away from, it's like nothing I've ever seen before. I'm really excited about it. So I guess that's our next up and coming thing that will launch in February. And so that's really exciting, and then just more of being in the clinic, and I've stepped back into practice. So more of being, here at the Pagoda Tree, again, helping people to overcome any health issues.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom with us today, Nat. I look forward to catching you on Insta.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for having me. And look, the other place that anyone can head is just my website, natkringoudis.com.au. That's where everything is. There's, so much information on there. Use that search function and pretty much type anything in there and you'll get an answer.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Well, we've got all those details for everybody today underneath this video. And in the meantime, I just wish you a fabulous day, a beautiful week, and I'll speak to you real soon. Bye.